Hello and welcome to You Got a Friend of Me, a Randy Newman podcast. I'm Tristan Miller, and joining me today is
Scott Interrante. I'm so happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were in the what is it? It's the seminal episode. Is that it?
I don't know that that's it.
I heard
I think maybe just second.
Yeah, no, the first one. You were in the first one.
Oh, I was in the seminal. Sure.
Is that like semen?
I think that's the etymology
Nasty.
of that.
I recently heard the term maiden voyage, and I was like, "Oh, that's gross."
Oh no!
Yeah,
I never thought of that one.
Right? I was like, icky. You guys gotta just say. I mean, I'm part of the problem. I just said seminal. We're trying to avoid maiden voyage, but it's no better, it seems. But anyway, we're talking about Randy Newman's second album, 12 songs. Very apt title. What do you think? Let's start at the beginning. What do you think of the title?
Well, there certainly are 12 songs.
That cannot be denied.
And in a way, you would think someone like a Randy Newman would do something cheeky.
And put like 13
and
on
put 13.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Ben Folds 5 is just 3 guys.
Mm-hmm.
That would seem fitting for Randy, but alas,
no,
just the 12.
Just the 12. R.I.P. in peace, the concept of doing 13, of lying, essentially. I love how cheeky just means you're lying a little bit, but it's fine. I worked at a jazz club, speaking of fun band names, and there was the band, the band,
right.
The band. There was a cover band of the band called the band. and everyone who didn't know there was a band called The Band was like, what the
band
is this? Like, what are it's these like 50-year-old men tipping away. Anyhow, yeah, this one's a weird one, right?
This is a weird album. Well,
so okay. I thought you were gonna say this is a Weird Al. I'm like, no, different album.
This is a Weird Al album. No, so this is a Weird album. But what's weird to me, and I think you might feel the same way, is in looking into some of the history and some of the contemporaneous reviews.
Yeah,
like Robert Christgau says this is a perfect album. It's an A+. Mm-hmm. It's like. You look on the Metacritic, it's like in the high 90s. It's on the Rolling Stones best albums of all time list.
Is it?
Yes, and I mean not super high, but it's there. And
it's an honor to be nominated.
And there's a lot that's interesting to talk about this album, but I don't know that it's low on my list of Randy Newman albums.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
sorry, listeners, you're about
to hear us dunk on our boy Randy for a little bit. I mean, like, even Harps and Angels is better than this, and that was one of his worst reviewed albums, I believe.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
there's a lot.
But so okay, I think we should at least contextualize a little bit in relation to the album that we did last week, the self-titled Randy Newman. Mm-hmm. This is like sonically as different as possible.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. He's talked about this in interviews. He was like, yeah, on that first album, all that orchestration, it was a mistake. Right. And so he doubles back rather. Right. And he's like, well, it's going to be me and 2 guitars and a piano.
Right.
And maybe some drums. There is one song, I can't remember what it is, where he's just singing with a guitar and there's no piano in the whole song. Or the piano is very faint.
Right, yeah. It's real stripped down, the whole thing.
But I've never heard him sing with just a guitar. I was so like, what the hell?
Yeah, and it's also, the arrangement, obviously, yes. But then the sort of songwriting, the musicality of it is all these sort of like Southern and country and Americana tropes, these roots blues and a little bit of sort of like stride piano stuff. It's all like in that ilk, which there is a little bit of on the debut and certainly like plenty of in his discography, but this one is like all really focused on that.
Yeah, that was one of my main thoughts was like, oh, you're starting to see the kind of the seeds of like, oh, this is where like You Got a Friend in Me. You get that base of like, oh, he does enjoy Southern music a lot. Like a lot. Like that's right. Most of what when people think Randy Newman, they think like a boogie woogie beat sort of thing.
Right.
And so like the last album we covered, like that was such a departure from that. And so it was shocking when I first heard it, and I think I mentioned that last time. But we kind of unburied the lead, with us going, this isn't our favorite. But out of our not favorites, what is your favorite song out of this album?
Oh, I think it might be Lover's Prayer,
Okay.
which is a weird one. Do you want to, should we dig into it?
Sure, yeah, if you want to.
So this song, like all of the songs on this album are to varying degrees from the perspective of not great people,
Mhm.
which is of course something that like happens in Randy Newman's discography. We talked about it a little bit
Yeah.
on the self-titled album. You'll talk about it a lot more throughout the podcast.
Oh boy.
But I feel like on this song, or on this album rather, not a lot of them are like funny.
That was something I had noticed as well,
They're
yes.
just like slightly like bad, slightly bad to very bad people.
Mhm.
But I do think Lover's Prayer is pretty funny. It's this by framing it as a lover's prayer, you're sort of thinking, okay, the narrator of this song is like singing to God and saying like, I deserve love and this is what I want out of love. But what he's saying is like all these complaints, these like kind of misogynistic complaints about how terrible women are and like the women he meets are, and it's like, I don't want like a young hippie girl who's gonna be complaining about the war and politics or whatever. Like, I don't want to have to like wine and dine them. I just, just send me someone great. But like clearly he has no redeeming quality. But uh, and then I love it just ends like, please answer my prayer, please answer my prayer, please answer my prayer. And it's like, I don't know, this one I find to be funnier than most of the rest of them.
I agree, and in one of the reviews that's on like Wikipedia, they're like, you get more pity from Randy Newman in this one. Like it's
Right.
more like self, and he's like, you can tell that all of his songs are written about losers. So when they're bad people, they don't win at life, which is
Yes,
nice.
yes, yes.
So it's really nice to kind of see poetic justice out of like some asshole of a guy.
Right, but it's really tacit. Like it's not hammered home.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just sort of there, like on the opening track, which is I think another highlight. Have You Seen My Baby?
Mhm.
It's much more upbeat. It's got the horns. It's kind of more of a groove soul R&B record. But that's a similar thing where it's this guy saying like, "Hey, have you seen my baby?" Except as the song goes on, you realize like, wait, I don't think you guys were ever together. I think you might be into this girl, but I don't think she's not cheating on you. She just does. She's not in a relationship with you.
We've all been there, haven't
Yeah.
we? Felt jealousy for no reason.
Right.
Gosh, oh, how embarrassing. That is something that I do enjoy about Randy is the fact that he does like. I mean, you see this a lot in comedy as well. Like he's bringing himself low. He's showing an embarrassing side of himself or of humanity at
Right.
some point. I also do really love this album, as you noted, like as a piece of Americana,
Right.
because he's obsessed with America as a concept, which I think, it's hard same. And so
Right.
like when you have all these like terrible people, and it's like, again, you wanted to touch on this as well. It's like it's an observation about how the world actually is, and reporting that back. How much does an artist have responsibility to like pick and choose
Right.
how to exemplify bad behavior, essentially?
Right. 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 Um, I do want to go further into that, but if you have a song that you wanted to highlight, we can circle back.
Oh, sure. Underneath the Harlem Moon, I
Right.
beautiful song. Understand, like it's a weird one because it feels like it could be perceived as racist, but also not at all.
Well,
But
so
it's
this is the one that's a cover, right?
yeah,
This is
yeah.
like a standard. It's written by Mac Gordon.
But yeah, it's so that's why
Right.
it's not like that's also whack to have a cover that is so I'm sure it was so ubiquitous at the time, but now
Well, yeah, my interpretation of him including this, because like, okay, you get a song, and we'll talk about more like Yellow Man.
Yeah, I
Right.
was like, we got it. It's the elephant in the room.
Right. And I feel like this is sort of setting it up because he didn't write this song. It's sort of like an old like vaudeville standard. And
Mm-hmm.
it is like pretty minstrelly and racist, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's almost like he's doing it to be like, hey, like the songs that I'm including here like fit into this lineage, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And almost like I read a review that was talking about the use of this song and the other songs, the original songs of this album, talking about a sort of like um just like embracing the embracing the racism in a way that forces the audience to be like, oh, this song is so beautiful, it's so catchy, and then you have to like listen closer. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what, did he just say darkies? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
and I apologize for, I just felt like terrible just saying that,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
regret it immediately.
Yeah.
But like that's the lyric in the song,
Yeah.
and in a way it feels like he's sort of like tricking you into like listening to these.
Oh, absolutely. Like he has tricked both of us into saying Yellow Man, which is not
Right.
a good thing, but it's the title of the song and we have to talk about it. Absolutely. He seems kind of like it's kind of a gotcha, you know.
Right.
But it is such a beautiful pardon me, it is such a beautiful song though. And the way it's orchestrated with the piano and everything,
Yeah.
it's great. But but yeah, it is like it's a kind of an unabashed look at bigotry in America, but it is again kind of like you gotta be saying that. Like I was listening to some other song off of Trouble in Paradise. I'm like, oh, he just said that in the '80s too, huh?
Right.
Damn. Okay.
Right. And again, it's like, caveat to all of this is like, are we the right people to dig into this
Oh, sure,
conversation?
yeah.
Maybe not. We're just the ones who are here right now.
Yeah. Well, I plan on having a far more nuanced conversation with not you about like rednecks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm not begrudging you that. I'm
Yeah.
not offended by that.
Good. I'm glad because you're just sitting here like, well,
Right.
But yeah, it's a beautiful orchestration. I also obviously Mama Told Me Not to Come is a banger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Womp womp womp. It's time for trivia. What?
Oh.
Yeah. What famous other group made that single? Is known for covering that single.
Oh. I don't know.
Three Dog Night.
Three Dog Night.
Which is also very interesting because they took One Is the Loneliest Number by Nielsen and made it very
Right.
popular, and they're all in the kind of same sphere.
Right. Well, yeah, I know they did some Brian Wilson, some Beach Boys stuff too.
Yeah, they love
I
to
guess,
cover.
yeah, I guess I don't know anything about Three Dog Night. Do they have original music?
I bet.
I don't. I'm not even saying that to be shady. I don't know.
I believe they do, but what they love to do is to take a kind of slower song and make it a bop. You know what I mean? Like they
Can't
really,
begrudge them that.
yeah, like they sing it up tempo, as they say.
Right. Right.
But yeah, Mama Told Me Not to Come is a banger, and I've heard the Three Dog Night version, also very fun, but a lot louder.
Right.
Like there's guitars wailing and whatnot. I also like. Here's my thing, Scott, about this whole album.
Right.
The way I've heard Randy describe the way he writes music is he'll sit down at a piano and just kind of like figure out some chords and like have an idea and then like sing it out and do that over and over. At what point do you think he was like, man, maybe I shouldn't? Like, do you think that was at any point? Do you think he was like,
It doesn't seem like it. But
There's no hesitation, which I mean, it's also what 1971,
right.
which is another thing that is like, okay, you have to unfortunately take that into a factor.
Right. Yeah, I mean the two, we were just talking about this before we started recording. Like the two recurring themes on this album are sort of like shitty misogynist men who are doing like borderline criminal things to women.
Yeah.
And racism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's what's going on here on this album. Um, and I think we have to talk about Yellow Man.
Oh yeah, not a great title.
It's not a great title.
Catchy though.
It's such an interesting song too, because in a lot of ways the content lyrically, other than using that phrase,
Mm-hmm.
isn't saying a lot of bad thing. And
Yeah.
it's sort of like, the perspective of the narrator is like, no, I mean, these people are great. Like,
Yeah.
they're just like you and me. Like, they work hard, they've got families, they care, it's like,
Yeah.
but
It's very similar to Rednecks in that way. If you
Right.
listen to the context of like, oh, it's very anti-racist, but it's using racist language that is unfortunate.
and I think to me at least the most glaring is actually like the musical racism of it.
For sure, yeah, that.
It's like you can't get away from that, even if you sort of like, okay, well, the term, it's at the time or whatever, but the sort of musical, like, faux Eastern sounding
Mhm.
riffs or whatever, it's really like jarring. In the end, it's got the sort of like gong sounding
Yeah.
cymbal, and it's just like, yikes.
Yeah, he, I'll give him this. He put in 100%.
Right.
He was like, if I'm gonna do this,
Right.
I gotta not hesitate.
But what's interesting is, so this is also on the Nielsen Sings
Mhm.
Newman album, where Harry Nielsen sings it. And that whole album is very interesting. It's because it's these same songs but with a voice that's very different, because a lot of these lyrics in all Randy Newman songs, you really kind of got to be looking at the lyrics to hear all of them because of the way he sings.
Yeah.
But when you have someone who's like a quote unquote like better singer, you can really understand, it's like the words pop.
Oh, yeah.
So that version is, I think, even more so unsettling to listen to. But so, like, if we can take this conversation broader to like,
Yeah.
to the idea of these songs portraying perspectives of people who aren't necessarily good people,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it's someone I've been thinking about. Just even on the last album that we talked about, we came across this issue a lot, and again, I think it was sort of presented in funnier ways.
Yeah.
Then this is like much more uncomfortable because it's not necessarily as over the top.
Yeah, there's not a guy who's been in charge of a 12-year-old that's making him dance for money, which is an absurd thing to do.
Right. But so, okay, so on this song in particular, I was thinking about the recent film Licorice Pizza, which you told me you have not seen yet.
I have not seen, and in general, I am a fan of Paul Thomas Anderson, though.
Yeah, I'll actually preface it by saying I'm real mixed on Paul Thomas Anderson.
Mhm.
But I think this film is great. Very, very good. There are two scenes in which a character is doing very racist things towards Asian people. So it is a white man who spent at least some time in Japan, has come back to California, to the Valley, to open up a Japanese restaurant. He has a Japanese wife, and in trying to communicate to his Japanese wife, he does not speak Japanese. So instead, he speaks English in a horrifically racist Japanese accent.
So here's the thing that is very funny, though.
Yes.
Because he's such an idiot.
Because he's the butt of the joke.
Mm-hmm.
And also, even if you like, maybe there is no butt of the joke. It's just a scene, right? And but to suggest that person doesn't exist in the world is crazy, because that person
for sure.
absolutely exists in the world. I would bet $1,000 that is taken exactly from Paul Thomas Anderson's childhood, that he knew that man who owned this Japanese restaurant in the Valley and was like, no, this is so absurd, like, I have to include this in this film, and I'm not telling anyone that they have no right to be offended by it, because it is offensive.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
But that's also, it is offensive.
It's meant to be.
It's right. And even broader, right? This film is about, again, great film, I think, but the film is about, a 25-year-old woman who by the end falls in love with a 15-year-old boy,
Oh
you know?
boy.
And but again, it's like if your approach to media, and I know we're getting way off topic, but I think it does
I think,
fit
yeah, thematically.
thematically. If your approach to media is like the value of this piece of media is the whole sum of like the morality of the Wikipedia synopsis,
Sure.
then like, yeah, sure, that's fucked up. That this is a movie about a 25-year-old ending up with a 15-year-old, right? But like, that's not what media is. That's not what a film is.
No.
It's not, you know, it's like, I mean, the last movie this guy made was about a very toxic relationship too. Phantom Thread, you know, it's like this, he's not someone who is trying to present like, oh, this is a wholesome relationship that I expect you all to get behind. Like, that's not what the point of the film is. So to loop that back to Randy Newman and songs like Yellow Man and the inclusion of Under the Harlem Moon, it's like
7 times I think we've said the title, by the way, and I do
Right.
want to apologize for every single one of them.
you know, it's like, again, not telling anyone that they shouldn't be offended by
yeah.
some of these songs because they are offensive, right? But it's like, I think where he is coming from is, again, like we talked about last time, like, this is a truth. Like, these are the real perspectives of very real people, and I am presenting them, and I'm choosing ones to present that are uncomfortable. And like, you can make plenty of valid arguments that like he shouldn't do that, or he should counter, you know, he should balance it out with other things or whatever. I think those are all fully reasonable arguments to make, but I think that's where it's coming from, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say every 3 years we have this conversation about intent versus impact, right?
Right.
And I understand the argument that impact is more important, and I would say to a lot of it is, and like, also to Randy's credit, he's stopped playing a lot of these songs. Like, they're on the songbooks because they're, you know, famous songs of his, but like, he stopped playing, and he's like aware of it.
Right.
But also, like, I think you are correct, or at least I agree with you, where it is like you presented something, and then with a piece of media, with a piece of art, whatever, and then your reaction is, I think, is the interesting thing, you know, as opposed to like, you know, judging it whether it's good or bad. It's like, it's meant to make you think and feel rather than like necessarily get upset. Or if you do get upset, you should ask yourself why. I have said jokes with the intent similar when I was a younger comedian, not as good as I am now, with the similar intent of like, I'm pointing out racism.
Right.
And then someone once said, well, this seems racist. I'm like, yes, it is. I'm pointing that out. And they're like, well, we don't want to hear it from you. And I'm like, that's a really good way to say it.
Right.
Is this the right person to be telling this story?
Right.
Whereas like, if I think, I thought about this again, I keep relating it to Rednecks because I think that's the most emblematic version of what we're talking about. If a black person were to cover that song, it would be so funny.
Right.
Like if Donald Glover were to come out and go like, here you go. Whereas coming from
right.
Randy, it like has a different vibe. But I do agree that there's a certain responsibility that people who make things have to make sure that the messaging is clear.
Right.
So you have to kind of take that into account. I was talking to a friend about short people, and he didn't understand. I was like, yeah, it's a metaphor. It's pointing out how stupid bigotry is.
Right.
And he goes, oh. I'm like, yeah. How could you? I was like, okay. I forget there are people who don't necessarily come to it from that angle. And again, also, it's the responsibility of the artist to like clarify that. And if it isn't clear, then you should probably, as quite rightly, Randy has stopped playing the songs because he's like, it wasn't clear, my bad.
Right. Or just, you know, sometimes things can be clear and well-intentioned and then just still not right. You know, or like you said, like, I don't want to hear it from you.
100%.
You know, so it's like, no, it is clear, it is well-intentioned, but maybe you're just not the
Yeah,
you're not the one.
Yeah, just
You know?
maybe not from you.
Right.
Yeah, and I understand and I respect that. And that's something that, like, as someone who does a fair amount of comedy, the thinking was anyone could say anything for a very long time, and then now we're kind of aware of optics more than ever before, because, you know, everything's being picked apart all the time. And I think that is a really good part, I think an important part of the conversation when it comes to, like, this seems messed up. But also, like, you get people who are arguing that Mad Men is a bad show because Don Draper's a bad person. And I'm like, yeah, and you see that the toll it takes on him because he's a monster. He loses everything. He's a loser.
Right.
But people don't see that. They see the smoking, the cigarettes, and the I don't think about you at all, you know?
Right. Yeah, well, look, can we be real about something?
Yeah, yeah.
Some people are dumb. You know? It's like if you watch Breaking Bad and think that this is a show where you're supposed to root for Walt, you're not smart. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, you're missing the point. You're at least obtuse on this point specifically. You've missed it.
That's very diplomatic.
Thank you. I've tried to be, but yeah. I mean, yeah, there are, like, morons everywhere, but it is like, yeah, you're missing the point of the thing, and, like, sometimes you need someone to go, oh no, that's this.
Right, yeah.
And then they go,
you're right, yeah.
Okay, you know. Exactly. It's like, but it is, yeah. A lot of people miss the point.
Right.
They're off the sides of the margins. They're, like, in a different book.
Yeah. So there is. I want to, you know, just to have more stuff talking about this album. Actually.
Oh yeah, I guess we should get back to that.
I wanted to mention Lucinda. So there's like a string of.
Oh yeah.
There's a string of songs named for women in this album.
Oh boy.
All of which the narrator is like. Treating women poorly, but this one I want to just kind of walk through the lyrics because
please do.
I'm a little confused, and I think it's intentionally vague. But so he says, you know, we met one summer evening when the sun was going down. She was lying on a beach in her graduation gown. Okay, so she's a little too young for you, Randy. But she was wrapped up in a blanket.
Well, it could be college graduation.
Sure.
Her master's degree.
She
got a PhD. She's 37.
He says she was wrapped up in a blanket, and then parenthetically, I could tell she knew her way around. That's a little. And then he says, and as I lay down beside her, you know, she never made a sound, right? And then it goes on, like this song ends with Lucinda being dead and like buried under the sand by the beach cleaner truck. But I'm almost, is she dead from the very beginning? Is he laying next to a dead body?
I think he might be.
I think that's
what it is. I think he's a weirdo that's like, I guess this'll do, you know?
Which is God's real dark.
God's sloppy seconds, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, it is very dark.
It is very dark, yeah.
Bleak.
It's bleak.
But yeah, it is. It's again, it's like so weird because unless you're really thinking about the lyrics and really absorbing them, this one kind of just sounds like, it's a kind of rag. Yeah. And is that the one with the blues, like the traditional just blues riff?
It's yeah. And then another one, the last track on the album, Uncle Bob's Midnight Blues, I also find to be very funny. So this one, it's just piano. It's like the same thing as like a very like standard bluesy piano thing. And it's seemingly from the perspective of someone who's way too drunk. And
which
so,
was
like,
Randy Newman when he wrote it.
So like the lyrics like don't make sense. They lose their train of thought. They sort of like drop out in the middle of verses and stuff. Sure. And it's very funny, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of is that, you know, it feels like it is a drunk uncle at like a 4th of July thing, and he's trying to tell a story and he's getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
It's beautiful in a weird way. Again, I think it's so beautiful, his obsession with, again, America, because everyone knows a moment like that.
Right.
And also, like, going back to the other song we were talking about with people going, yeah, Asian people are fine. We all know someone who is, like, in the defense of a minority group, does drop a slur.
Right.
And it's, again, always, like, so well intended. Like, Viggo Mortensen, did you hear about this?
I don't. I
When
don't know this.
he said the N-word in an interview when he was doing Green Book promotion, saying, "Oh, you can't say this anymore."
Right.
But everyone was like, "Viggo, don't. We have a new phrase for it. You can't."
Oh,
And it's just, it feels so similar, but it's so, I don't know. He just seems, and I think I might have said this last time, like kind of like Mike Judge, so keyed
Right,
into like
right,
what
right.
America actually is, as opposed
Right.
to like some sort of idealistic thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, there's no like faux patriotism in Randy Newman. His
Oh, yeah.
Americana is like. I was almost gonna say warts and all, but it's not. It's just the warts. You know.
Yeah, yeah, because like, and that goes to like when the Chamber of Commerce of Los Angeles tried to make "I Love L.A." the like city's theme.
Right.
Randy was like, "You can, but it's not flattering."
But I think you should hit replay a few more times.
Yeah, have you considered when it's like there's a bum on his knees? Have you considered that? Yeah, I think there's no point of America that Randy won't poke at until it bleeds.
Yeah, well, that's actually very similar. So on this album, there's the song "Old Kentucky Home,"
Oh yeah.
which uses the chorus of the Stephen Foster song, which I think is called "My Kentucky Home," right? Or "My Old Kentucky Home," which is like the official state song of Kentucky. Except what Randy Newman does here is like, okay, I'm gonna take that sincere, beloved anthem for Kentucky, and then add these verses that are like delivered very straight faced, but about like, oh, these fucking ass backwards rednecks, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And like presented as if like it's all part of the same, you know.
You know what it reminds me of? Have you heard the Union version of Dixie?
No.
Oh, so you know how Dixieland was like the marching anthem for
Right.
the Confederacy? The Union Army made a parody of it. And I highly Tennessee Ernie Ford does a great rendition of it. Highly recommend you have a listen to it. But it starts off with "Way Down South in the Land of Traitors, full of snakes and alligators." And I'm like, that is perfect because it feels very similar to that in
Right.
the same aspect of like, come on. Just basically, come on.
Right. Right.
It's also, I always find it so amazing whenever we're, talking about this sort of thing. Even like something as so seemingly kind of harmless as like Davy the Fat Boy. But this is the same guy that wrote like A Bug's Life. You know what I mean? we have to hold those two truths in our minds of like, oh, right. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he's had a weird career.
He truly has. I want to talk a little bit more about, because I want to highlight Mama Told Me Not to Come because of
sure.
the fact that like it was written for Eric Burdon's first solo album, and then Three Dog Night covered it, and then Tom Jones and the Stereophonics also covered it. Like a lot of people have covered this, and it's an absolute bop. And let me see if I'm gonna do this terrible thing where I'm gonna play the Three Dog Night version, and so it's gonna sound terrible for everybody else but you who's in the room.
Right, sure.
And there's an ad. I love it. You'd love to see it, folks. Oh my god. So okay, the ad's done. It's for Hennessy.
Oh yeah.
Completely different. And then here's Tom Jones of What's New Pussycat fame. Already, like, this was in the 2000s, I believe.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Want some whiskey in your water, sugar in your tea? What's all these crazy questions they're asking me?
Oh, it's a bop still.
Yeah.
Party that could ever be. Don't turn on
it's a certified bop.
Yeah.
I might do a cover myself.
I would love that.
I would have no idea how to do it, but I'll try. So I want to try out a new segment. And the segment is this. I'm going to ask you to do your best Randy Newman impression.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is why I sprung it on you, because I knew that would be the reaction. So do you got a choice of song.
Okay.
I can play for you. You Got a Friend in Me.
Right.
Short People.
Right.
Or Davy the Fat Boy. And again, I apologize. I'm not going to plug in my
Right.
keyboard. I'm just going to play it.
You know what? I think let's do Short People.
Okay.
I gotta just pull up the lyrics just so.
Oh, you don't have them memorized?
Well, I was very genuinely not told that this was gonna happen. So.
Yeah, that is true. You don't want to goof it up. And I reckon, maybe just the refrain.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And as a warning, I'm not really a singer or an impressionist at all.
This is again why I want to make you do this, because it is embarrassing, but you're being such a champ about it.
Okay, I think I got it. I think I know how to make my throat do this.
Okay, here we go.
Short people got no reason. Short people got no reason. Short people got no reason to live.
Perfect. You nailed it. That was
no.
so good. No. That was perfect, Scott.
Okay.
I'm so glad that went as well as it did. Because I'm going to make everybody do it, and they're going to hate me.
No, that's great. That's a great segment.
Thank you. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. He's got a weird voice. He's just like, I don't know what to tell you. I love it so much. What do you got? We're wrapping up here at 40 minutes. What do you?
I mean,
look,
it's a strange album. There are people outside of this room that seem to really like it.
The room being your mind.
And who am I to tell them that they're wrong? It's critically acclaimed. I do think in talking about it just now, we illuminated some things that are interesting and good about it. But as a listening experience, I feel like for me it really all blends together.
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting a lot of it unless you're really like looking at the lyrics. And a lot of the songs, we sort of highlighted the ones that are funniest or most interesting. There's a ton of slog in here. I mean, it's not slog. It's not bad, but it's just like
it's white noise, right?
There's a lot of it is quick though. That's one thing I'll say for it. It's like this is a 29-minute album, and I love that.
Yeah. I've always said something needs to be as good as it is long.
That's such a great rule of thumb.
Yeah, it's like if it sucks, don't worry about it. Just make it quick. I specifically for jokes, if you have a bad joke, say it real fast, move on. Done and done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I very much agree. It all blends together. I've listened to it about 4 times over the course of the last 2 days in preparation for this episode.
Right.
And do you remember when I was like, is that the one where this happens? And I'm like, the only ones I remember are the ones that are problematic enough where I'm like, oh,
right.
boy.
Yeah.
But that and Mama told me not to come because it's a bop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if this is what I'll say, if it comes up on my like Apple Music like recommended, I probably won't skip through it, but I'm not gonna seek out If You Got Oil or whatever the fuck that's called.
Yeah.
Which doesn't he burn down someone's house in that? Not he, but the narrator.
That's a weird one. It's like I'm not even really. I can't begin to understand what is trying to be done in that. I actually have this one on vinyl too, and I think I never listened to it a lot because it was like it's just not. Yeah, it doesn't reach out to me the same way that the others do. So
it doesn't pop as much.
Yeah.
Go back to the first one, the debut.
Yeah.
Listen to that. All right. You got anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I mean, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course.
Like I mentioned last time, I'm going to be starting a podcast called This is the best song I've ever heard in my entire life.
I love very Fall Out Boy title.
Right.
A plus.
Which I have to get you to record an episode soon.
Oh yeah.
And you find me on Twitter, whatever. It's Interrante Scott.
You have a fun TikTok as well.
I've got a TikTok as well, and maybe go see Licorice Pizza. I think there's some good stuff in there if you read more than the Wikipedia summary. Haim, you got all the Haims. The 3 Haim sisters and the parents are in it, and they're all great.
And I believe they were like their mom was his English teacher growing up.
I think an art teacher.
Yeah, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because you like had a huge crush on.
Right.
Which is again kind of where the story.
Oh yeah.
It all is linked together. I need to go see this movie. I am not answering a work call. It is 6:00. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Tristan J. Miller and look at all the things. If you're listening to this, chances are you saw the link on my Twitter. So I don't know why I play. But thank you and good night.